In the far reaches of the galaxy, the peaceful civilizations of several advanced alien races had enjoyed dominance for centuries. Their ships, technology, and military power were unmatched. But today, a new force had entered their world, something none of them had anticipated, something that would change everything. A massive human battleship, unlike anything the galaxy had seen, appeared on the outer edges of their territory. It came without warning, traveling faster than anything the aliens had on record. Its dark silhouette loomed in space, a terrifying sign of what was to come. No one knew how the humans had managed to construct such a colossal vessel, and no one was ready for the shockwave it would send across the galaxy. The first report came from a scouting ship of the Zarin Empire, an advanced alien race known for its powerful fleets. The scout ship was supposed to observe the strange arrival, but before they could transmit their findings, the human ship fired a powerful energy blast, destroying the scout with a single shot. The Zarin commanders stared in disbelief. How could such a massive vessel destroy a scout so quickly? News spread fast across the galactic leaders. The galaxy's mightiest empires, Zarin, Vashtar, and the Tethran Collective, gathered their forces, preparing for the worst. Military officers and strategists were in a frenzy. The human ship was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Reports called it a ghost ship, appearing from nowhere and attacking with force. The very idea that such a force could come from humanity, an unknown species on the fringe of the galaxy, was both puzzling and terrifying. At the helm of the ship was Captain Amelia Grant, a seasoned human commander who had fought in many battles. Unlike the aliens, humanity had always been pushed to adapt and evolve through every challenge. The battleship had been designed with the best technology Earth had ever developed, but it was more than that. It was the will of humanity to survive and dominate. As the ship advanced deeper into alien space, it left a path of destruction. The Zarin fleet, the first to engage, found themselves completely unprepared. Their ships fired their most advanced weapons at the human battleship, but the shields absorbed the blasts effortlessly. The human vessel retaliated with an energy pulse that shattered their front lines. Alien fighters tried to swarm the ship, but they were like flies against a moving fortress. The alien fleets were not used to facing such resistance. Their advanced technology had always given them the upper hand. But here they were, facing something they couldn't understand, something they couldn't control. The humans, as they would soon learn, weren't interested in negotiating or surrendering. They only knew how to fight and conquer. Back on the battleship, Captain Grant stood at the front of the command room, her gaze steady and determined. She had prepared for this moment her whole life. Humanity had never been given the chance to lead, but now they had it, and she would ensure that they wouldn't waste it. The rest of the galaxy had underestimated humanity. Now it was too late for them to turn back. The battleship continued its path through the stars, ripping through the galaxy's defenses as if they were made of paper. The galaxy had never seen anything like it before. The human battleship, an enormous dark ship, had just torn through the first of the alien fleets with an unstoppable force. Now the Zarin Empire, one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, was desperate. They had never faced such a challenge. The Zarin military quickly sent out an emergency call to their allies, the Vashtar Dominion and the Tethran Collective. A massive fleet was organized, a collection of the galaxy's best ships and most experienced commanders. Together, they believed they could stop the human battleship before it tore through their entire civilization. On the human ship, Captain Amelia Grant was ready for the fight. She had been prepared for this moment. This was humanity's chance to prove they could stand among the greatest powers in the galaxy. Amelia stood at the center of the control room, her gaze fixed on the glowing holographic map showing the incoming alien fleet. The alien ships were closing in fast, and their numbers were overwhelming. Yet she felt no fear. The ship under her command was not just advanced. It was a symbol of human strength, a result of decades of struggle and survival. The first wave of alien ships came into view. They were sleek and fast, designed for agility and powerful laser weapons. As the alien fleet closed in, their commanders fired a barrage of energy beams, aiming to bring the human ship down with precision strikes. But the human battleship's shields absorbed the fire with ease. The crew didn't even flinch as the ship shook slightly from the force of the incoming blasts. Without hesitation, Captain Grant gave the order. "Fire all cannons." The ship's weapons fired with a deafening roar. The human battleship unleashed a series of massive energy pulses, each one stronger than the last. The alien fleet's ships were torn apart. The first wave of the attack vanished in seconds. It was as though the human ship wasn't even trying. It simply overwhelmed them with sheer force. The remaining alien ships quickly regrouped, their commanders furious. How could this be happening? How could these humans, who were supposed to be weak and primitive, possess such power? Amelia's voice remained calm as she watched the destruction unfold. She knew this battle wasn't over yet. The alien forces were adapting, changing tactics. They were no strangers to defeat, but this was something new. They hadn't expected such raw power. What was this human ship made of? How were they so strong? More alien ships moved in, trying to surround the human battleship. Their tactics shifted. Now they came at the human ship from multiple angles, hoping to overwhelm its defenses. For a moment, it seemed like they might succeed. But the human ship had one advantage the aliens didn't: innovation. The human crew, despite the chaos, worked seamlessly together. Engineers and technicians on board worked quickly to adjust the ship's systems, improving the shields and weapon power with every passing second. The ship was a living, breathing entity, always improving, always adapting. Captain Grant gave another order. "Prepare for Phase 2. Let's show them what humanity can do." With one decisive command, the human battleship fired a new kind of weapon, a pulse so powerful that it seemed to shake the stars themselves. The alien ships that had gathered to surround the human ship were blasted away in a single, sweeping motion. What had once seemed like an overwhelming force was now a scattered, broken mess. The aliens had underestimated humanity. As the battle ended, silence filled the vastness of space. The alien fleets were in disarray, their once proud ships now nothing more than debris floating through space. The human battleship had ripped through them like paper. Amelia Grant stood tall in the control room, her eyes scanning the aftermath. There was no time for celebration. This victory was only the beginning, and the galaxy would soon learn just how relentless humanity could be. The alien fleets were reeling from the destruction of their best ships, their pride and power shattered in an instant. The Zaran Empire, Vashtar Dominion, and the Tethran Collective were left in confusion, wondering how a species so new to the galactic stage could wield such power. They had never seen anything like it before, and they were desperate for answers. Back on the human battleship, Captain Amelia Grant and her crew didn't celebrate their victory. They knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy's strongest empires would not simply surrender. They would learn from their defeat, adapt, and come back stronger. The humans had won the battle, but the war was far from over. As the human ship continued its journey deeper into the galaxy, the alien forces scrambled to find answers. How could humanity have created such a weapon? What kind of technology did the humans possess to make their ship so powerful? The alien scientists and military experts worked day and night, poring over the remains of the destroyed ships and trying to uncover the secrets behind the human ship. The Zaran military leader, General Zedar, paced in his command room, his mind racing. He had been in countless battles, but never had he faced an enemy like this. The human battleship had withstood everything they threw at it, and its weapons seemed to be far more advanced than anything the galaxy's empires had. How was that possible? He called for a team of top alien engineers to examine the wreckage of the ships, hoping to find some clue that could explain the human ship's power. Meanwhile, on the human battleship, Captain Grant and her officers discussed their next move. The crew had seen firsthand the shock and awe the ship had caused, But Amelia knew that they couldn't afford to get too comfortable. They were still deep in alien territory, and the rest of the galaxy was undoubtedly preparing for another confrontation. What makes our ship different? Lieutenant Harris, the ship's chief engineer, asked as he looked at the data screens. I studied the systems and the technology. It's almost as if the ship was built to be indestructible. Grant nodded, her mind working quickly. Humanity's strength is not just in our technology, Harris. It's in our ability to adapt, to survive, to overcome. We've had to fight for everything we've earned. As they spoke, the crew worked tirelessly to ensure the ship remained in perfect condition. They weren't just fighting a battle against the alien fleets, they were fighting for their survival. The human battleship was a symbol of everything humanity had faced, from wars to environmental disasters to political struggles. The ship had been built to survive it all. Across the galaxy, the aliens were starting to piece together the truth. Humanity's weapons were not just advanced. They were born from necessity. Human history had been shaped by war and hardship, and that had driven them to create technology that could endure anything. The aliens began to realize that it wasn't the technology alone that made the humans dangerous. It was the relentless spirit that fueled it. As the days passed, the alien forces began to understand the true nature of the human threat. It wasn't just about weapons or ships. It was about the human will to fight, to endure, and to never give up. And that, they knew, would be the hardest thing to defeat. The battle had left a scar on the galaxy. Alien fleets were shattered, their technology and pride destroyed by a single human ship. But even in the face of overwhelming victory, Captain Amelia Grant couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The galaxy's most powerful empires were wounded, but they were far from defeated. Their next move was unknown, and the human battleship was now deep within enemy territory. There was no turning back. As the ship advanced further, the crew began to feel the strain. Days of constant battle had taken their toll. The crew, made up of engineers, soldiers, and scientists, had worked tirelessly to keep the ship running smoothly. But the endless repairs, upgrades, and combat maneuvers had started to weigh heavily on everyone. The feeling of tension in the air was impossible to ignore. Inside the command room, Captain Grant reviewed the data on the latest alien movements. Their fleets were regrouping, and they were making some significant adjustments. They had learned from their first defeat, and now they were ready to strike back with everything they had. Amelia knew they had to stay one step ahead, but it was becoming increasingly difficult. The constant pressure was starting to take its toll on the crew. "Captain," Lieutenant Harris said, his voice laced with exhaustion, "we've made some incredible progress with our shields and weapons, but we can only push the system so far before it starts to fail. The alien fleets will soon be able to hit us harder than before." Amelia nodded, understanding the situation all too well. They had pushed their technology to its limits, but the longer they stayed in enemy space, the more vulnerable they became. The battleship was an incredible feat of engineering, but even the most advanced technology had its limits. The ship's engineer, Dr. Olivia John, entered the room, her face tired but determined. "Captain, the crew is feeling it. There's a lot of pressure on everyone, and we're running low on supplies. If we don't rest and repair properly, we won't make it much longer." Amelia looked at the faces of her crew, seeing the exhaustion in their eyes. They had been fighting nonstop, their spirits lifted only by the hope that they could finish what they had started. But Amelia knew that even the strongest humans had their breaking point. She had to make a decision, one that would affect the fate of the entire crew and their mission. "Prepare for a temporary retreat," she ordered after a long pause. "We'll regroup and get what we need. We can't afford to risk everything just to keep pushing forward. If we don't give ourselves a break, we won't be able to win this war." The crew didn't question her. They had followed Amelia through every challenge so far, and they trusted her judgment. The battleship began to move toward a nearby uninhabited planet to rest and resupply. It wasn't a safe choice, but it was necessary. As the ship moved into the planet's orbit, the crew took a rare moment to breathe. Some took a few hours to sleep, others repaired systems, and some gathered for quiet conversations. The battle had tested their limits, but they had survived. This was a time to recharge, but they knew the war was far from over. Captain Grant stood by the command room's observation window, looking out at the stars. The human spirit had gotten them this far, but would it be enough to carry them through the challenges ahead? She couldn't afford to let her guard down. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of hope. Humanity had survived the impossible before, and it would do it again. The time to rest was over. After several days of repairs and resupply, the human battleship was ready to move again. The crew was exhausted but determined. They knew the galaxy's empires wouldn't give up so easily. It was only a matter of time before the enemy would strike back with everything they had. Captain Amelia Grant stood at the front of the command room, her eyes scanning the star maps. The alien fleets were regrouping, and reports came in from the human scouts. The Zarin, Vashtar, and Tethran empires had all forged a stronger alliance, and they were planning something big. The time for small skirmishes was over. They were preparing for a decisive confrontation. "This isn't going to be easy," Lieutenant Harris said as he studied the data. They gathered their forces in one place. "It looks like they're going for a final push. They're throwing everything they've got at us." Amelia exhaled deeply. She had known this was coming, but that didn't make it easier. The battle ahead would be unlike any they had faced. The human ship was strong, but it had its limits. The enemy would be using their full power to tear it down. "We have no choice," Amelia replied. "We'll strike first, before they get the chance to form a complete attack." As the ship moved into position, the crew readied themselves for the biggest battle yet. The human battleship, once a symbol of hope and strength, was now a weapon of war. Its guns were prepared, its shields at full strength, but every person aboard knew that this battle could change everything. The first wave of alien ships appeared on the horizon, their sleek forms cutting through space like shadows. They moved in perfect formation, ready to overwhelm the human ship. There was no hesitation in their movements, no sign of doubt. They were united in their belief that this time, they would crush the humans once and for all. "Initiate Phase 1, Captain Grant ordered. The human battleship fired its first salvo, a blast of energy that lit up the blackness of space. The alien ships fired back, but their weapons had little effect on the human shields. The human battleship moved forward, its guns firing with precision. The alien ships were hit with wave after wave of energy, tearing their hulls apart. But the alien fleets were not without strategy. They began to scatter, using their superior speed and agility to dodge the human attacks. The battle raged on, the vast emptiness of space filled with flashes of light as the two forces collided. For hours, the human crew fought with everything they had. The alien fleets pressed harder, attempting to break through the human defenses. The human battleship was hit, and the crew felt the impact, but it held strong. The ship's systems were damaged, but they were not destroyed. "This is it," Amelia said to her crew, determination in her voice. "We're not backing down. We finish this now." With that, the human ship launched its final strike. The alien fleets, caught off guard by the humans' relentless power, couldn't respond fast enough. In a single massive burst of energy, the human battleship decimated the remaining alien forces. The battle was over. The galaxy's mightiest empires had been crushed, their ships scattered and burning in space. Amelia watched from the command room window as the debris floated through the silence of space. The battle had been won, but it came at a cost. The human battleship had taken damage, and many crew members were injured. Yet the victory was undeniable. Humanity had proven that they could stand up to the galaxy's most powerful forces and come out victorious. As the crew began repairs and tended to the wounded, Captain Grant stood alone, looking out at the wreckage. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and now they knew better. The tide had turned. The age of human dominance had begun. In the aftermath of their crushing defeat, the alien empires were in disarray. The Zarin, Vashtar, and Tethran forces had suffered devastating losses, and their once proud fleets were now broken and scattered across the galaxy. But even in defeat, they knew they could not afford to give up. The humans had proven themselves formidable, but the galaxy's alien leaders were not willing to let this challenge go unanswered. However, a new problem was starting to form within the Alliance. The cracks were beginning to show. The Zarin Empire, led by General Zadar, was reeling from the battle. Zadar was a proud and battle-hardened leader, but even he could not deny the scale of the disaster. The human battleship had torn through their forces like a storm, leaving destruction in its wake. As he sat in his war room, looking at the scattered reports, his mind raced. He needed to regroup, but the situation was worse than he had imagined. The Vashtar and Tethran empires, once reliable allies, were now questioning the very foundation of their alliance. "General," one of his officers said, breaking his thoughts, "the Vashtar are hesitant to launch another attack. They are talking about negotiating with the humans. They believe we have lost too many ships." Zadar slammed his fist on the table. Negotiating. His voice was filled with frustration. The humans don't negotiate. They destroy. If we show weakness now, it will be the end for us. But the Vashtar had already begun sending feelers for peace talks. The Tethran Collective, on the other hand, was more interested in vengeance. Their leadership had grown bitter, and some factions believed that the human threat could only be ended by complete annihilation. The once united front was splintering. Meanwhile, in the command room of the human battleship, Captain Amelia Grant watched as reports from the front lines continued to pour in. The victory had been sweet, but she knew it wasn't over. The galaxy's empires would regroup. They would learn from their mistakes and return with a vengeance. She turned to her officers, her face as steady as ever. "They are fractured. That much is clear. But don't mistake this for peace. The galaxy's leaders are dangerous when they're backed into a corner. They'll strike again." Lieutenant Harris nodded. "What's our next move, Captain?" Amelia thought for a moment. "We push forward, but we must be careful. We cannot afford to get complacent. The enemy is wounded, but they will be desperate. We need to keep up the pressure." The human ship continued its journey through the galaxy, always moving forward, always prepared for the next fight. As they traveled deeper into alien space, the crew remained vigilant. They had survived the worst, but they knew the hardest battles were still ahead. Back in the Galactic Council, the fractures within the alien alliance grew wider. The Vashtar Dominion began to negotiate with humanity, secretly sending envoys to Earth. They hoped that, if they could reach a peace agreement, they could avoid further destruction. The Tethran Collective, on the other hand, pushed for more aggressive action. They were furious at the loss of so many ships and the humiliation they had suffered. They believed that only a direct attack on the human homeworld would ensure the end of humanity's rise. As the two factions debated and bickered, the human battleship continued its unstoppable march through the galaxy. The Alliance may have been breaking apart, but one thing was certain: the humans were not stopping, and they would not be intimidated. Captain Grant stood before her crew once again, her voice steady. "We've broken their front. Now we finish what we started." The peace talks between the alien empires had failed. The Zarin, Vashtar, and Tethran leaders, now deeply divided, were once again turning their focus toward one thing: defeating humanity. The alien forces had learned from their mistakes, and they had something new, something powerful. A weapon so destructive, it was said to be capable of wiping out entire fleets in seconds. Rumors of this superweapon had spread quickly, and Captain Amelia Grant knew that the humans were in greater danger than ever. The human battleship had torn through the alien defenses before, but this new weapon, codenamed Ether, was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. It was a massive energy cannon, designed to obliterate anything in its path with a single shot. The aliens had spent years perfecting it, and now it was ready. Amelia stood in the command room, staring at the holographic projection of the galaxy. The map was dotted with red, showing the locations of the alien forces. Her crew, though exhausted, was ready for what came next. The victory they had fought so hard for was slipping away, and the enemy was preparing to unleash their ultimate weapon. "Captain," Lieutenant Harris said, breaking the silence, "the Aether weapon is being transported to the front lines. If they fire it, we'll be in trouble. We need to stop them before it's too late." Amelia nodded. "We know what we're up against. We can't afford to let them get the chance to use it." The human battleship's engines roared to life as the crew set course for the weapon's location. They had no time to waste. The stakes had never been higher. As they approached the alien stronghold, the vastness of the enemy fleet became clear. It was unlike anything the humans had ever faced, an armada of ships with the Aether weapon at its core, surrounded by a fleet of support ships. The alien alliance had put everything they had into this final strike. The tension on the ship was palpable as the crew prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. The thought of facing the Aether weapon sent a wave of fear through even the most experienced officers. But Captain Grant remained calm. She knew that humanity's greatest strength wasn't just its technology. It was its will to fight, to adapt, and to overcome any obstacle. "Prepare for engagement," she ordered, her voice firm. The human battleship moved toward the alien fleet, its weapons primed and ready. The alien ships noticed the human vessel approaching, and they immediately opened fire. But this time, the human ship was faster, more agile. The crew had learned from their past battles, and they knew exactly how to avoid the enemy's attacks. The human ship weaved through the alien fire, getting closer to the center of the enemy formation. The Aether weapon was now in range. The alien fleet positioned the cannon, aiming it directly at the human ship. The energy buildup in the weapon was immense. This was their last chance to destroy the humans once and for all. "Captain," Lieutenant Harris shouted, "they're going to fire the Aether." Amelia's heart raced. The weapon was already charging up, its power growing with each passing second. They had only one chance to stop it. Without hesitation, she gave the order. "Fire everything we've got." The human battleship unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, targeting the alien ships surrounding the Aether weapon. One by one, the alien ships exploded, leaving a trail of debris in space. The Aether weapon, now without its protection, was vulnerable. But the aliens didn't give up. In a desperate move, they fired the Aether weapon. A massive beam of energy shot out, tearing through space at incredible speed. The human battleship barely managed to dodge the blast, but it still grazed the hull, causing a violent shake that threw the crew off balance. "Damage report," Amelia ordered. "Shields at 60%, hull integrity holding," came the reply. The human battleship wasn't finished yet. With one last push, they fired a direct shot at the Aether weapon, hitting it in its core. The super weapon exploded in a burst of light, taking down the remaining alien ships with it. The threat was gone. Amelia exhaled, a mix of relief and exhaustion flooding her. The human crew had won once again, but this victory had come at a great cost. The Aether weapon was destroyed, and with it, the last hope of the alien empires to stop humanity. As the human battleship drifted through the wreckage of the alien fleet, Amelia knew that this was a turning point. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had proven it could stand against the most advanced empires, and they had emerged victorious. But the war was far from over. The galaxy's empires were still out there, waiting for the right moment to strike back. The battle had ended, and the silence that followed was deafening. The human battleship, battered but still standing, drifted through the wreckage of the alien fleets. The mighty Aether weapon had been destroyed, and with it, the hope of the galaxy's greatest empires. Their ships were now nothing more than floating debris in space, a testament to humanity's strength and resilience. Captain Amelia Grant stood in the command room, her eyes fixed on the large holographic map of the galaxy. The stars flickered on the screen, but for the first time in what felt like forever, there was no new threat on the horizon. The battle had been won, but at a cost. The ship was damaged, and many of the crew had been injured during the final fight with the aether weapon. "Captain," Lieutenant Harris said, breaking her concentration, "we've received communications from the surviving alien factions. They want to discuss terms." Amelia nodded. It was no surprise. The galaxy's most powerful empires had been defeated, and they had no choice but to ask for peace. Their fleets were broken, their weapons shattered, and the human battleship had proven too powerful to overcome. The tables had turned, and humanity now held the upper hand. "Send them a message," Amelia replied. "Let them know we'll listen. But make no mistake, they are the ones who need peace, not us." The alien factions, now weakened and divided, had no choice but to approach humanity for a ceasefire. The Vashtar Dominion had already sent envoys to Earth, eager to negotiate a peaceful resolution. The Zarin Empire, though still proud, was considering the possibility of forging an alliance with humanity, and the Tethran Collective, battered and humiliated, had no choice but to agree to terms or risk total annihilation. But as the human battleship slowly made its way through the galaxy, Amelia knew that the war was not truly over. The galaxy's most powerful empires had been broken, but there were still many more civilizations out there. Some would surely rise up, eager to take revenge on humanity for their victory. The peace they sought now was only temporary. "What happens next, Captain?" Lieutenant Harris asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. Amelia turned to him, her face calm but thoughtful. "We prepare. We don't stop. We've proven we can win, but we have to be ready for the next fight. This galaxy is vast, and there are always those who will seek to challenge us. We can't rest on our laurels. We must stay strong." As the human battleship continued its journey, the crew began to repair the damage sustained during the battle. Medical teams worked around the clock, treating the injured and providing much-needed care. The rest of the crew gathered in the mess hall, their faces weary but proud of what they had accomplished. They had survived the impossible, and now they had proven that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. Amelia joined her crew in the mess hall, a rare moment of calm in the aftermath of the battle. The crew, despite their exhaustion, had a newfound sense of hope. They had faced the galaxy's strongest empires and come out victorious. Humanity had shown the universe that it would not be ignored, that it would not back down in the face of overwhelming odds. "To humanity," Lieutenant Harris said, raising a glass. "For survival, for strength, and for the future." Amelia smiled, her eyes looking around at her crew. "To humanity," she echoed, raising her glass in return. "For everything we fought for." And as the crew shared in their victory, Captain Grant couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride. Humanity had shown the galaxy its true power. But as they prepared for whatever came next, she knew one thing for certain. The war might be over, but humanity's journey had just begun. Weeks had passed since the battle against the alien fleets. The dust had settled, but a deep tension remained in the air. The human battleship had won the war, but the price of victory was still fresh in the minds of the crew. The galaxy's alien empires, defeated and broken, had sent emissaries to Earth to negotiate peace. Captain Amelia Grant knew that this was only the beginning of a new phase in humanity's journey. The galaxy had witnessed the power of humanity, and now it would have to face the consequences. The peace talks were not going smoothly. The alien factions, though weak, had not entirely given up their pride. The Vashtar Dominion, always keen to protect their status, struggled to accept the truth of their defeat. The Zarin Empire, still bitter over their humiliation, tried to convince the other alien factions to reject the peace agreement. Only the Tethran Collective seemed ready to truly embrace peace, but even they were cautious, unsure of what humanity's next move would be. Inside the human battleship's command room, Captain Grant paced back and forth, studying the reports coming in from Earth's diplomats. The alien factions had sent their representatives, and while the Vashtar and Zarin were pushing for terms that would favor their own recovery, the humans were in no mood for half measures. "Captain, we've received another message from the Vashtar," Lieutenant Harris said, handing over the latest transmission. "They are insisting on terms that would give them control over key systems in the galaxy. They believe that if they manage the trade routes, they can rebuild their power." Amelia's eyes narrowed. The Vashtar had always been one of the most resourceful races in the galaxy, but their arrogance was their downfall. "We can't give them control. We're not here to make concessions. We're here to ensure peace on our terms, not theirs." Amelia knew that humanity had already proven its strength. The galaxy had learned the hard way that they couldn't be intimidated, that they had the will and the technology to fight and win. But now, in this fragile moment of peace, humanity needed to remain firm. "What are the Tethrans saying?" she asked. "The Tethran representatives are more open to our terms, but they're still wary. They're asking for a mutual defense pact, something to ensure that no empire will try to attack Earth or its allies again." Amelia nodded. "That's a step in the right direction. Set up another meeting with the Tethrans. We need them on our side." The decision was clear. Humanity would not back down. The galaxy needed to know that the human battleship was not just a symbol of power, it was a symbol of unyielding resolve. The peace talks were far from over, but the message was sent loud and clear. Humanity would not be bullied, and it would no longer accept the role of a lesser race. As the human battleship prepared for the next round of negotiations, Captain Grant felt a renewed sense of determination. The galaxy might be large, and the alien empires might be powerful, but humanity was different. They had fought for everything they had, and they had earned their place among the stars. In the weeks that followed, the peace talks continued, but there was a growing understanding among the alien factions. Humanity had the strength, the resolve, and the technology to shape the future of the galaxy. And with every passing day, the alien representatives realized that humanity's place in the universe would not be decided by their terms. It would be decided by humanity's own choices. The galaxy was quiet, but the tension was still thick in the air. The peace talks were nearing their end, but the fate of the galaxy was still uncertain. The human battleship had proven its strength and resilience, but now humanity faced a new challenge: how to build a future in a galaxy that had once seen them as weak. Captain Amelia Grant stood on the command deck, staring out at the stars. The war was over, but the peace was fragile. The alien factions were still divided. Some were willing to accept the terms of peace, but others, like the Vashtar Dominion and the Zarin Empire, had not fully accepted their loss. The Tethran Collective had come around, agreeing to a mutual defense pact, but it was clear that some of the alien factions still viewed humanity as a threat. "Captain, the last of the alien representatives are departing," Lieutenant Harris reported. "It seems like they've agreed to the terms. The galaxy is quiet for now." Amelia nodded, but her expression remained serious. "Quiet now, but not forever. We have to stay vigilant." The peace was not the end of the struggle. It was just a new beginning. Humanity had fought for its place among the stars, and now it was time to solidify that place. The negotiations had been difficult, but Captain Grant knew the hardest part was still ahead. Humanity would have to prove that it could leave the galaxy without repeating the mistakes of the past. "Prepare the ship for departure," she ordered. "We need to keep moving forward. There's still much to do." As the human battleship left the alien system, heading back toward Earth, the crew felt a mix of exhaustion and pride. They had been through countless battles, each one more dangerous than the last, and yet they had emerged victorious. The humans had done what no one thought possible. They had conquered the galaxy's mightiest empires. In the months that followed, the galaxy slowly began to change. The alien factions, though reluctant, began to rebuild. The Vashtar and Zarin empires, while still bitter about their defeat, began to realize that humanity wasn't a passing threat. It was a force that had to be reckoned with. Slowly, they started to open up, sending ambassadors and trade representatives to Earth. The Tethran Collective, now strong allies, helped ease the way. But for Captain Grant and her crew, the focus was always on the future. The human battleship became a symbol not just of victory, but of hope. Humanity had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they could survive. They could thrive. They could lead. "Captain, we've received a message from Earth," Lieutenant Harris said, his voice breaking through the silence. "The Council is ready to discuss the next phase. They want us to help guide the galaxy into this new era." Amelia smiled slightly. "It's time," she said, her voice filled with determination. "It's time for humanity to lead." As the human battleship sailed through the stars, Captain Grant looked out at the vastness of space. The galaxy, once so full of enemies, now seemed full of possibilities. Humanity had earned its place, and now it was time to shape the future. The war was over, but humanity's journey had just begun.